This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Mar Rabbi, fasten your seatbelts. We're going to revolutionize our understanding of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. I don't think most of us are looking forward to Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. I don't think Sunday, Shiva Asar B'Tammuz is coming. I can't wait. By the way, you know it's the longest fast of the year. It's longer than Tisha B'Av. It's longer than Yom Kippur, at least the daytime hours, because it's closest to the summer solstice of June 21st. So it's a long tainus. And many of us are looking forward until the end of the tainus. But by the time this year is finished, hopefully we'll be looking forward to this day as a fast day as well. Let us examine a Mishnah Masechta Tanis. The Mishnah says in Masechta Tanis on Daf Chavav Amud Aleph, going on to Chavav Amud Beis, 5 tragedies occurred on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. Here we go. Tragedy number 1. Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai, and he took the luchot and he smashed the luchos on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. Number 2, the carbon tamid stopped being brought in the times of the temple. Now, which temple? You know what the carbon tamid is. Many of us say every morning the Parshas HaTamid, which is basically a recitation of the offering that they used to bring in the Beis HaMikdash. And by saying about the carbon, by talking about it, it's considered as if you actually brought it. However, when the temple stood, they would take a cow, and they would take a sheep. They would slaughter the sheep every morning and every afternoon. The Tamid Shel Shachar, the Tamid Shel Ben Arbayim. And on the 17th day of Tammuz, the Gentiles came in and they stopped the bringing of the carbon Tamid. When? When did this happen? So I'm sure you remember the Talmud Yerushalmi. It looks like many of you are very familiar with the entire Talmud Yerushalmi, right, Reb? Probably. And Reb Shimon says the Greeks in the times of the Second Temple abolished the offering of the carbon tamid. Rabbi Levi says no, it was the Romans in the time of the Second Temple. The Rambam says no, it was the Babylonians in the times of the first Beis HaMikdash. So there are various opinions when the carbon tamid was abolished, during what era. Then the Mishnah says a third tragedy. Huvka ha'ir, the walls of Jerusalem were breached. You know Jerusalem? You know that city? You know, we're in Israel. You know Israel, the country. It's not in America. You know that? Israel is different than America. It's a different country. Now you can't go there anymore. Starting today, you can't go there. They closed it up again. Anyway, I'm giving you travel advice. Okay, if you want, you could come with me next weekend. We're going to visit Kivrei Tzadikim. But Israel, they're locking it up again. Israel's capital is Yerushalayim. I'm joking with you. You're looking at me, what's this guy talking about? Right? Yerushalayim is the capital of, and there was a wall around Yerushalayim, and they breached the walls of Jerusalem on the 17th day of Tammuz in the times of the Second Temple. In the times of the First Temple, when did they breach the walls of Yerushalayim? It's a machloikas, it's a dispute between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says they breached it on the 17th of Tammuz. The Bavli says they breached it on the 9th. The question is, Tosfos happens to raise the question, Masechta Rosh Hashanah Daf Yirches, that if you look in the Navi, in the prophet says, the prophet Jeremiah, the prophet Yirmiyahu says, in times of the First Temple, they breached the walls on the 9th. So, the question is, according to the Yerushalmi, they breached it on the 17th. So how do you reconcile what the Yerushalmi says with what the Pasuk says? And Tosfos says as follows. They breached it, in fact, on the 17th. However, the Navi purposely wrote the wrong date. Why? Because it was such a confusing time. There was such unclarity. They were so discombobulated. They were so confused and foggy that to preserve the unclarity of the time, the Navi recorded the wrong date. Okay, so they breached the walls of the temple. And then Apostamos burnt a Torah. Apostamos burnt a Torah. When did he burn the Torah? In the times of the Second Temple and times of the Greeks. Rashi says, no. Rashi says it was in the times, it was earlier. By the way, which Sefer Torah was burnt? Some hold, the Tiferes Yisrael writes, all the Sifrei Torah were attempted to be burnt. Others say it was the authoritative Sefer Torah of Ezra. And then the Mishnah finally says, Hamad Tselem Behechal. They erected an idol in the temple. When did they do that? Some say Apostomus did it. Rashi says Menashe did it. When did Menashe live? In the times of the first temple. So basically we have a Mishnah. And the Mishnah says a random collection of 5 tragedies occurred on the 17th day of Tammuz. What were they? The luchos were broken. The carbon tamid stopped being brought according to most in the times of the second temple. The city walls were breached in the times of the second temple. They burnt the Sefer Torah. And then they put up an idol in the Heichal. And according to many, the idol was put up by Menashe in the times of the first temple. So it seems to be a random collection of different tragedies, and the Mishnah is not even listing them in the order that they happened. It's not even in chronological order. Why would the Mishnah not list these tragedies in chronological order? And was it just a coincidence that these 5 random tragedies in different eras of time happened on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz? Is there any common theme to these 5 tragedies that they all happened on this particular day? To try to answer some of these questions, we have to go to this week's parsha. What's this week's parsha? Balak. And Balak hires this guy, this sorcerer. His name is Bilaam. Bilaam might have been a descendant of Lavan HaArami. Some say he was the Gilgal of Lavan HaArami. Some say he was Lavan HaArami. And he's trying to curse the Jewish people. So the pasuk says, Vayar Bilaam. Bilaam saw, if you look at number 2, Ki toiv be'enei Hashem levarchas Yisrael, that God only wanted him to bless the Jewish people. V'loi holach kifam bifam likras nechashim. So Bilaam did not want to use sorcery. So what did he do? Vayashes el hamidbar panav. He directed his focus and his gaze toward the desert. He figures if he looks at the desert, he'll be able to curse the Jewish people. What exactly was Bilaam looking at when he was looking at the desert? Says Targum Onkelos. Take a look at number 3. You know Targum Onkelos on the side of the Psukim. You have a Targum which was not written by Onkelos. It was not written by Onkelos. Onkelos received the tradition from Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua of this translation, which was given on Har Sinai. By the way, there's a debate in halacha. Is it better to learn the parsha with Rashi, or is it better to learn the parsha with Onkelos? Many poskim say the advantage that Onkelos has over Rashi is that Onkelos was given on Har Sinai. So why is it called Targum Onkelos? Onkelos did not reveal it. He didn't teach it. He disseminated it based on what he learned from Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua. And Targum Onkelos says, what does it mean that Bilaam looked at the desert? Targum Onkelos says, V'shavi lo kavel egla da'avadu Yisrael b'madbara. That Bilaam looked at the egel that the Jewish people worshipped in the Midbar. So he was sort of gazing prophetically with nevuah, with prophecy, at this terrible sin that the Jewish people worshipped in the Midbar. And he figured if he really hones in and focuses on the egel, he'll be able to attack them from that vantage point. That's very interesting. Bilaam had a fixation with the egel. What was Bilaam's fixation with the egel? Why was he so interested in the egel? Who made the egel? So I want to tell you an amazing Arizal. The Arizal says Bilaam had 2 boys. Did you know that? Bilaam had 2 kids. The Targum Onkelos says that when Bilaam was going to curse the Klal Yisrael, he took Shnei Na'arav Imai, his 2 sons with him. Who were the 2 sons of Bilaam? Yunus and Yumbros. Those were his 2 sons. Okay, that was the name he gave them, Yunus and Yumbros. And you can imagine the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. These guys were not big tzaddikim, right? They weren't coming to Mishmar Thursday nights. These guys were, a few blocks down doing I can't say what. Okay, these were big Rishaim. They were the sons of Bilaam. Says the Arizal, they snuck into the Midbar, and they were the ones who built the Egel. They made the Egel. Ooh, now we know why Bilaam was so interested in the Egel. He was shepping nachas from his children. He was really beaming from the big Aveirah that his children did, that they were the ones who made the Egel. Now, how they infiltrated the Midbar and how they were able to make the Egel, we don't have any information on. But one thing that Arizal reveals to us, the sons of Bilaam, they were the ones who made the Egel. Please take a look at number 4. Okay, it's a pasuk in Tehillim. The verse says, "Vayamiru es kevodam betavnit shor ochel esav." Okay, you know what that pasuk means? Vayamiru. The Jewish people exchanged es kevodam, their honor, their glory. Who's the glory of the Jewish people? God. They exchanged God. Betavnis shor, in the image of an ox. Ochel esav, that eats grass. What is this pasuk talking about? Sin of the golden calf. We exchange God for a cow. That's what it says. Vayamiru es kavodam. We exchanged our glory, betavnis shar, in the image of an ox, ochel esav, that ate grass. Anybody have any questions on this pasuk? Are there any extra words in this pasuk? The pasuk says they exchanged God for the image of an ox that eats grass.
Gold doesn't eat grass.
No, the first thing is when it eats grass. What does that mean even? Gold doesn't eat grass. How do you know? You have gold? You don't have gold. Maybe it eats grass. Right, so he happens to be right. Gold doesn't eat grass. But are there any extra words? Why is the pasuk telling me that what the cow ate? Do you think I care what the cow ate? Let's say the cow ate kishka. So then it would be a different avera? What do you guys eat on Shabbat? Kibbeh? What do you guys eat? Huh? Nothing. You don't eat food. You ate so much Thursday night that there's no room Shabbat. Baksht. Let's say it said, "Vayamiru es kvodam betavnis shor ochel baksht." Then it would have been a different avera. Ochel sushi. Why do I need to know what the calf ate? What difference does it make? It should say, "Vayamiru es kevodam betavnit shor ochel esav." Why is the pasuk saying? Why is King David recording for posterity that the calf ate grass? Comes the Arizal, and the Arizal says an amazing revelation. You ready for this? What day did Moshe Rabbeinu come down and witness the sin of the golden calf? We know that Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai on Vav Sivan on Shavuot. He came down 40 days later, and God said, "You're not going to be happy with what you see." Moshe said, "What's going on?" God says, they don't need you anymore. They made a calf. Moshe says, let me see for myself. Moshe comes down on the 17th day of Tammuz, and he witnesses the Jewish people worshiping the golden calf, and Moshe takes the luchos and he shatters the luchos on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. Says the Arizal, Esev, grass, doesn't mean grass. We don't care what the cow ate. Esev is a Rashi Tevot. It's a mnemonic. Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. The word Esev spells out Asar, Shiva, B'Tammuz. The pasuk is not saying what the cow ate. The pasuk is saying when they made the cow. The cow was made on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. B'Tavnis Shar Oichel Esev. By the way, think about, let's make an analogy now. When God gave us the Torah, He was marrying us. You know that the Torah, we're married to God through the Torah. God is the groom. We're the bride, we're the kala. The Torah is like the ketubah. God married us on Har Sinai. Well, you say, what was the chuppah? He held the mountain over our head. Shotgun marriage, yeah? He held the mountain over our head. He forced us to marry him. You know why he forced us to marry him? The Maharal writes, because if you're ma'anes a woman, if you coerce a woman, you're never allowed to divorce her. So God coerced us so He can never get rid of us. That's what the Maharal writes. Okay? Now the chuppah, by the way, did you ever realize that at a chuppah, the parents of the chatan v'kala, they're walking down with torches. Why are they walking down with torches? To remember Kabbalat HaTorah. Because that was the original marriage. That was the first marriage. You ever, at a marriage, the Mesader Kiddushin says, Al ho'arayot, ve'asar lanu as harusot, ve'hiter lanu as hanusuot, lanu al yidei chuppah, v'kiddushin. Chuppah v'kiddushin. It's out of order. It's out of order. It's backward. First you do kiddushin, then chuppah. No. When God married us, first He held the mountain over our head, chuppah, and then He gave us the Torah, kiddushin. So since God did it backward, we do it forward, but we make the bracha backward like God did. By the way, why do you at every chasna, you break the glass? Why? Oh, to remember the Beit Mikdash, that's what they told you, right? And you went for it. That to remember the Beit Mikdash, that's one of the reasons. And then you could sing, right? You could sing very nice songs. No, that's not the real reason. Because every chatuna is reminiscent of the original chatuna. And at the original chatuna, the Torah was broken. So to remember Shvirat Haluchot, we break a glass under the chuppah, says the Marshal, and the Yam Shel Shlomo. We're going to visit him next week in Lublin, if you want to come with us. The Yam Shel Shlomo is buried in Lublin. So here God was marrying us. And what were we busy doing? You know what the most despicable thing a kala could do at her chuppah? Imagine if at the chuppah, the husband, the guy's waiting for her, and she's being mezaneh. That's not a good thing. That's what we were doing. God was waiting to marry us, and we were busy off. We went off with a cow. We were serving the egel. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu came, and he gave us to drink he smashed up the egel, and he gave us to drink. Rashi says he was checking us like a sotah. He was checking us like a sotah. We were a sotah. We were Eishesish. We were married to God. We were married to God, and we were like mezaneh with the egel. That's Rashi. Ooh, so there's a pasuk in Shir HaShirim. You guys know Shir HaShirim. Ashkenazim, we do it once a year. You guys do it every week, right? You know this pasuk? Ad shehamelech b'mesibo nirdi nasan recho. You know that pasuk? Ad shehamelech b'mesibo. While the king was at the party, nirdi nasan recho, we gave off a foul smell. Says the Gemara in Gittin. What does this refer to? Who's the king? God. What was the party? His marriage. What was the foul smell? We were serving the egel. That we stunk, the Gemara says. Can you imagine? At the chuppah, we were busy with a cow. Says the Rokeach, one of the great masters of the secrets of the Torah. Ad shehamelech b'mesibo Rashi tevot esev, grass. Why grass? Because that's the date that we gave off a bad smell. Esev, Asar, Shiva, B'Tammuz. Now, there was a great rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yaakov Ettlinger, rabbi of the 19th century. And Rabbi Yaakov Ettlinger was born in 1798. He was nifter in 1871. He was a student of Rabbi Avram Bing, and amazingly, he was a great matmid. He was one of the first rabbanim, first achronim. He actually had a degree from university, but he was one of the great old-time tzaddikim. He would learn every night until 2 a.m., and already 5 a.m. in the morning, he was wearing talis and tefillin, and he was learning be'iyun. Unbelievable. The Aruch Laner, Rabbi Yaakov Ettlinger, wrote a sefer on Chumash called Minchat Ani. The Minchat Ani reveals to us that this Mishnah that says that 5 tragedies that happened on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, and we asked, they're random, they're out of order, they're not in chronological order, they didn't happen in the same era. No. Says the Aruch Laner, these are not a collection of 5 random tragedies that Moshe broke the luchos, and the carbon tamid stopped being brought, and the walls of the city were breached, and Apostomus burnt the Torah, and they put a tselem in the heichal. No. This is the 5-pronged downward spiral in Jewish history. In other words, we all know the state of American Jewry today is bichurban. You know that. Even though Ohel Simcha, it's a beautiful yeshiva, they have learning every day, they have tefillot, Queens, Brooklyn, Monsey, and we think Torah is alive and well in the Jewish people, Am Yisrael Chai. Unfortunately, the state of the Jewish people today is very much bechurban. 7 out of every 10 weddings that occur for a Jewish kala is to a non-Jewish chatan. You know that? The intermarriage rate in the United States of America today is more than 70%. But all of these 70% of people who are intermarried, their great-grandfather in Europe or in the old country were big rabbis with long beards, some of them with long payas and long coats. And how is it that in 5 generations they don't even know Avraham Avinu, they don't know Shema Yisrael, and they don't even know Avinu Shebashamayim? How's that possible? You have kids in Israel today, Jewish children, Jewish father, Jewish mother. They don't know the difference between Avraham Avinu and George Washington. They don't know who's who. George Washington, they think, is Jewish. He was in the Torah synagogue in Rhode Island. They don't even know who Avraham Avinu is. How's that possible? Says the Aruch Laner, this Mishnah is giving us a step-by-step approach, historical approach, of what happens to Jews. How is it that a great-great-grandson is completely alienated from Judaism when the great-great-grandfather was a big tzaddik? And the answer is it happens in 5 steps. Step number 1 is the luchot are broken. The luchot are broken. Yeah, of course, I daven with a minyan 3 times a day, no question. I never miss a minyan. I come early, I say Pitam HaKtoret from a klaf, and I stay late, and I say Tehillim. But there's no time to learn. There's no time for Shiurim. There's no time for Gemara. There's no time to learn. The first thing that goes are the Talmud Torah, learning. I don't have time to learn. I'm going to pray, and I'm going to sway, and I'm going to do mitzvot, and I'm going to take lulav and esrog, and I'm going to sit in a sukkah, but there's no time to learn. The first step of Jewish disaster is nishtabru haluchot. The luchot are broken. We start slackening off in limud Torah. Ooh, you know what happens after that? Says the Mishnah, after that, batel hatamid. Batel hatamid refers to the everyday service of Hashem. First, what happens is, once in a while, mincha with the minyan. It's so hard to daven mincha with the minyan. It's the middle of the day. It's the middle of work. There are no minyanim. Hey pal, there are no minyanim. There are 50 minyanim on your block every 3 minutes. Every 2 minutes there's another minyan. I can't daven mincha with the minyan. Then I can't daven mariv with the minyan because it's very late at night and I'm tired and I spent the whole day in the office and I'm just going to daven mariv in my bedroom while I'm mostly sleeping. And then sometimes maybe Tuesday shacharit and Wednesday shacharit. There's no kriyat haTorah, so I'll let Tuesday and Wednesday shacharis go. If I'm not going Tuesday, Wednesday, then I don't have to go Sunday. And then sometimes even Monday and Thursday, but of course I go Shabbat. But Mincha Shabbat, maybe once in a while I don't have to go Mincha Shabbat. If I don't go Mincha Shabbat, maybe Friday night I don't have to go. And then what do you think their children are going to say? If they don't go Mincha and my dad doesn't go Kabbalat Shabbat, then Shabbos morning I go every Shabbat Mivarchim, I go to Shabbos Shachris. And then, of course, I go to Shabbos Shachris when Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh. And then I don't miss any Yomim Tovim. Maybe at night I miss, but I definitely don't miss Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I don't miss I won't miss Tkiyat Shofar Ne'ilah. And then slowly, the tefillot start withering away. And this Jew is now batel hatamid. That every regular service has become batel. Until Huvka Ha'ir, the city is breached. Shlomo HaMelech compares the Jew to a city. And we have a wall around it. You know what the wall is? Our shiurim, our tefillot. And as soon as the shiurim stop and the tefillot stop, then we are open prey to the Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara comes in and he burns down the Torah. And the next thing you know, the grandson at least has the Star of David hanging around his neck. The great-grandson, Ha'emed Tselem Behechal, he has a different icon hanging around his neck. And you know where it started from? The great-grandfather slackened a little bit in Torah. And when the Torah starts to go, the tefillah starts to go. And when the tefillah starts to go, you're dead meat. That's the 5-step downward progression of the 3 weeks. If you want to know, why don't we have a Beit HaMikdash? If you want to know why we have 3 weeks of tragedy, it starts by slackening off in Torah. Now, how do you slacken off in Torah? It starts like this. I have to keep my phone on during the Shiur. Obviously, because who knows who could call me? Maybe Bibi Netanyahu is going to call me on the phone, or Trump is going to message me, or Biden is going to ask me a very important shayla like what today is, or something like that, right? And I mean, he's going to ask, some security questions. So the first thing is you leave the phone on. Maybe my wife's going to need me. When your wife's going to need you? You were home for 3 hours, and every time she asked you to do something, you ignored her. No, but during the shiur, I have to be ready to help my wife in case she needs me. All of a sudden, you're big tzaddik in the middle of shiur. Then, so basically, the Gemara says that the Torah is a big weapon against the Yetzer Hara. So how come, here it is, we learn so much Torah, and the Yetzer Hara has a field day with us. Why? Why isn't it a good medication? The answer is, because we don't take the medicine. Because instead of coming to a shiur for an hour and learning an hour straight, we learn 30 seconds, and then a WhatsApp, and then 10 seconds, and then a text, and then 15 seconds, and then an email, and then 10 seconds, and a notification. So we never learned more than a minute straight, and that's not really Torah. That's like, watered down minor leagues. That's minor league Torah. You want a major league Torah, you got to learn uninterrupted. That's the first step. The first step of Judaism is Torah, but it has to be real Torah. It can't be fake Torah. Well, you're here anyway, so you might as well. You're not helping your wife at home, so why should you help her while you're in the Beis HaMedrash? It's interesting, I want to tell you something. Rabbi Akiva was an unlearned guy. He was Am Haaretz. He didn't know Torah. And he went off to learn and he became big rabbi. After 12 years, he came back and he overheard somebody saying to his wife, "Dear, you're out of your mind. You let your husband go and learn for 12 years. He missed your son's bar mitzvah. You go by yourself to PTA. You make borscht every Shabbos and nobody eats it, right? So what kind of husband do you have? It's a ridiculous situation." So she said, if he would listen to me, he would learn another 12 years. And Rabbi Akiva overheard that, and he ran straight back to the Beit HaMedrash for another 12 years. So how long did he learn? 24 years. So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz asked the following question. If Rabbi Akiva was a good husband, don't you think it would have been nice of him to say to her, "Hi, honey, how you doing? Thank you so much for letting me learn for 12 years. I really appreciate it. I don't know how to repay you. When I come back after 12 years, I'll really be the best husband in the world. You deserve a medal." What does he say to her after 12 years? Does he say thank you? Does he say anything? Does he say, how was our son's bar mitzvah yesterday? How are the kids doing in school? He doesn't say boo. He heads right back to the Beis HaMedrash. He doesn't even say hello. Why? So famously, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says, because he just learned 12 years. If he's going to say hello to his wife, then he's going to have learned 12 years, and then another 12 years. However, if he heads straight back to the Beis HaMedrash, he's going to have learned 24 consecutive years. And when it comes to learning, the main benefit of learning is consecutive learning. And 12 years plus 12 does not equal 24. And I say, if 12 years and 12 years doesn't equal 24, then 10 seconds and 30 seconds and 45 seconds is not as valuable, to put it the least, to say the least, as the learning could be. So the first thing you need to do is you need to tell the Yetzer Hara, I came to this Beis Medrash to learn. Whether I'm here 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, the best thing is leave the phone outside. Don't even bring it in. What do you need it for? If the phone, a lot of people say it's on vibrate. Okay, yeah, it's on vibrate. You're the whole shiur, you're imagining that you're vibrating. Even if you don't look at it, you think you got like 70 calls, and after the shiur, you see only one person called you, and it was a telemarketer who wants your money. So the best thing is leave it out, or it should not be on. Then, now we're in business. Now we're talking. Now you could fight the Yetzer Hara. That is step number one. But as soon as the learning goes, the tefillah suffers, the city is breached, the Torah is burnt, and the religion is changed. Now, I want to share with you an amazing thing. This all means that the whole Churban Beit HaMikdash was precipitated by slackening off in Limud Torah, the breaking of the Luchot. The breaking of Luchot happened on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. By the way, Rav Nachman of Breslov writes, what month were the Luchos broken in? Chodesh? Tammuz. Tammuz stands for Zichru Torat Moshe. Remember the Torah. You know why Tammuz stands for Zichru Torat Moshe? Remember the Torah? Because the Gemara tells us when Moshe broke the Luchot, all of a sudden we started forgetting Torah. Had Moshe not broke the Luchot, there would have been no such thing as forgetting. The phenomenon of forgetting Torah did not exist in the world until Moshe broke the Luchot. As soon as Moshe broke the Luchot, Torah flies out of our head. So therefore, Chodesh Tammuz is the month. Zichru Torat Moshe. We have to rectify what we did in Chodesh Tammuz. You know what else Tammuz stands for? Tammuz stands for Zeman Matan Torah Seinu. It's the time of the giving of our Torah. What are you talking about, Zeman Matan Torah Seinu? This is not the time of the giving of Torah. The Torah was given on Shavuot in Sivan. No. Says Rav Nachman, Moshe got the Torah in Sivan, but he came down to bring it to us on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. So this is the month of Zichru Torat Moshe and Zman Matan Torah Seinu. So you say, what happened to the Vav of Tammuz? Where did the Vav? What does the Vav stand for? Who? The Vav. What number is Vav? 6. How big were the Luchot? 6 by 6. But Moshe broke the Vav. He broke the 6. So that's how we don't have to deal with the Vav in the word Tammuz, because it was broken.
6 by 6 what?
Tefachim. Yeah? Now that it's 10:15 at night, okay, and I'm not going to go more than another 3 hours. Just joking. You wouldn't know because now you all turned off your phones. So you don't even know what time it is. How many hours are in the 3 weeks? How many hours in the 3 weeks? Let's start with this. How many days in the 3 weeks? Say, 3 weeks is 21 days. The thing is, it's a misnomer. It's not 3 weeks. Because Shiva Asar B'Tammuz is Sunday, and Tisha B'Av is Sunday. So how many days is that?
24.
20 what?
19.
You'll be my accountant, okay? How many? Sunday to Sunday is 22 days, right? Sunday to Sunday. If you count, Sunday to Shabbat is 7 days. To Sunday is 20. There are 22 days in the 3 weeks. How many hours in the Bein HaMetzarim? 22 times 24. How many is that?
528.
Very good. 528. 528 is the numerical value of mafteach, key. The great rabbi, the Bnei Yissaschar. We're going to visit his grave next week. You're welcome to join us. The Bnei Yissaschar, he tells us 528 is the gematria mafteach. What does mafteach mean? Key. Because the key to Geula is another important thing. That's 528. How many parakim, how many chapters in the Torah, in the Shishe Sidrei Mishnah? 528 chapters in Shishe Sidrei Mishnah, corresponding to the 520 hours of the 3 weeks. Because what caused the 3 weeks? What caused the Churban? Nishtabru haluchot. The Torah was broken. How are we going to rectify that? How are we going to strengthen ourselves? The key to Geula are the 528 hours of the 3 weeks, corresponding to the 528 parakim of Shas, of Mishnayot. Now, there are 528 parakim in the Mishnah. 5 of them are not really Mishnah. They're like Tosefta or Brisa. What are they? The final chapter of Pirkei Avot is not really Mishnah, it's a Braisa. You have a parak in Bikurim. You have a parak in Psachim. You have Sota. You have Bikurim, Avot, Psachim, Kiddushin, and Sota. 5 of the 528 prakim are not Mishnah, they're Braisa. And 5 of the hours of the 3 weeks are not that tragic, because the last 5 hours of Tisha B'Av already, Mashiach was born. So the first 523 hours of the 3 weeks corresponds to the 523 prakim of Shas. The last 5 hours of Tisha B'Av correspond to the 5 prakim that are not Mishnah, they're Braisa. Because the key to Geula is strengthening in Limud Torah. And that's what we're doing tonight. We're strengthening ourselves in Limud Torah. But as we mentioned, strengthening doesn't just mean to be in a room. It means to try to remove all distraction. Even if, let's say, it's only 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. At the time of the Torah, you want to be completely focused. This week's Haftorah. Do you know what this week's Haftorah is? The Haftorah of Parshas Balak. V'haya she'eris Yaakov. If you take a look at number 16. It will be the remnant of Yaakov. Who's the remnant of Yaakov? That's us. We're the remnant of Yaakov. B'kerev amim rabim. Among many nations. Kital me'es Hashem. The dew is going to come down from God. Kerevivim, like the rain. The mayim is going to come down. What is mayim compared? Ein mayim ela? Torah. When we learn the Torah, it's going to be Alei Esev. It's going to take the day Esev. What's the day Esev? Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. Every year we learn this Haftorah before Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. It's not a coincidence. It's teaching us that when we strengthen ourselves in Mayim, in Torah, it's going to transform Shiva Asar B'Tammuz into a holiday, into a Yom Tov. Now let me tell you something. When Aaron HaKohen was involved in making the Egel, and the people said, what's going on? What's happening over here? What did Aaron say? Chag Lashem Machar. Tomorrow is going to be a holiday. What did Aaron mean tomorrow is going to be a holiday? Tomorrow is going to be a fast day. The 17th of Tammuz is a fast day. Why did Aaron say tomorrow is going to be a holiday? You know, in the Torah, the word machar, tomorrow, sometimes means in the way off future. What Aaron HaKohen meant is, guys, I know tomorrow we're going to make the golden calf, but machar, in the future, in the times of Mashiach, the Navi Zechariah says, Tzom Haravi, the fast of the 4th month. What's the fast of the 4th month? Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, Nisan Iyar Sivan Tammuz. Tzom HaChamishi, the fast of the 5th month. That's Tisha B'Av. Tzom HaShavi, the fast of the 7th month. What's that? Tzom Gedalia. But Tzom HaAsiri, and the fast of the 10th month. Yeh lebeis Yehuda l'sason u'lesimcha. You know Rabbi? You know Rabbi? You know who Rabbi was? Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. He had a very interesting practice on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. He would go into a spa, into a bath, and he would bathe on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. That doesn't sound like a good thing to do on a fast day, whether you're allowed to, you're not allowed to. Doesn't think. You know what else Rebbe wanted to do? Rebbe wanted to abolish Tisha B'Av. So the Gemara says, he wanted to abolish Tisha B'Av, but the rabbis didn't let him. But what did Rebbe want to do? So the Gemara says it's talking about a situation where Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbat, and anyway you're going to push it off to Sunday. So Rebbe said, once you're pushing off to Sunday, let's get rid of it entirely. Why was Rebbe so interested in being mevatel these ta'anesim? I'll tell you something very amazing. All of these ta'anesim, even though they're tragic days, they have in them seeds of geula. All of the redemption of the Jewish people is latent in these fast days. Let's give an example. Tisha B'Av is a day of tragedy, but who's born on Tisha B'Av? Mashiach. If Mashiach is born on the 9th of Av, then Mashiach is conceived how many months earlier? 7 months earlier. That's the least it could be. What's 7 months before Tisha B'Av? Asara B'Tevet. Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz writes, Mashiach is conceived on the 10th day of Teves. So he's conceived on Asara B'Teves. He's born on Tisha B'Av. Do you know who else was conceived on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz? Oved, the son of Boaz. Boaz lived with Rus the night of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. And Oved, the grandfather of David, was conceived on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. So these fast days, even though they're tragic, have in them the seeds of the redemption of the Jewish people. And that is why these days, even though we're very saddened and we mourn the tragedies, but we're also very hopeful. Because these days have in them the koach and the latent energy and potential to bring the redemption of the Jewish people. Asar B'Teves is the conception of Mashiach. Tisha B'Av is the birth of Mashiach. Shiva Asar B'Tammuz was the conception of Oved. So Rebbe wanted, you know why Rebbe wanted to abolish Tisha B'Av? Who does Rebbe come from? The Gemara says Rebbe came from King David. Rebbe sensed in his soul that since the redemption is latent in Tisha B'Av, he already felt the simcha of these fast days. So Rebbe tried to abolish Tisha B'Av. Rebbe bathed on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. If we are mechazek ourselves, if we strengthen ourselves, first, primarily, belimud Torah, especially at this time of the year. You know, we read in Eicha, Kol rodfeha hisiguha bein hamitzarim. Literally, it means anytime the Gentiles pursue us, they always catch us during these 3 weeks. All Jewish tragedy happens during these 3 weeks. But another meaning is, Kol rodfeha, anyone who runs after God, rodfeka, anyone who runs after God, hisiguha, will achieve closeness to Hashem, bein hamitzarim, specifically during this time of the year. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu should strengthen all of us in the merit of us coming together this evening. I'm going to share with you one gematria, an amazing gematria. The pasuk says, Tzion b'mishpat tipadeh v'shaveha b'tzedakah. Tzion will be redeemed with mishpat, and her captives will be redeemed with charity. Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld says, the gematria of Tzion b'mishpat tipadeh is Talmud Yerushalmi. V'shaveha b'tzedakah is gematria Talmud Bavli. That's what it's going to take. Our commitment to Limud Torah, with focus, with amelut, with energy, with dedication. The 528 hours of the 3 weeks correspond to the 528 hours prakim of Shas. May the Almighty strengthen all of us that we should reverse this cycle of destruction. We remove the tselem beheichal, and we fix the Torah, and we fix the walls. And all it's going to take is if we make sure that this time around the luchos are not broken, then we reverse the cycle, and we will merit the conception of Mashiach, the birth of Mashiach. Sheyavai b'mher v'yameinu. Amen. Thank you very much. Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.